Hi, my name is Demetrius Archie. I will be doing a presentation on DNA evidence. I would like to thank everyone for coming today, taking time out of their busy schedule to come and view my presentation. I have my audience here. My fourth person that's supposed to be in my audience is actually recording for me. One of the viewings that I will have today will be my slideshow here. So we'll just go ahead and get to talk about the DNA evidence. It has been argued that the discovery of DNA, as well as our understanding of its structure and functioning, may well be the most important discovery of the last century. The effect of discovery of DNA on scientific and medical progress has been enormous. Whether it involves the identification of our genes that trigger major diseases or the creation and manufacture of drugs to treat these devastating diseases. In fact, the identification of these genes and their subsequent analysis in turn for therapeutic treatment has ultimately influenced science and will continue to do so in the future. My slideshow here. Shows a strand, which is the DNA strand model for DNA. How DNA is used. DNA is generally used to solve crimes in one of two ways. In cases where a suspect is identified, a sample of that person's DNA can be compared to evidence from the crime scene. The results of this comparison may help establish whether the suspect committed the crime or not. In cases where a suspect has not yet been identified, biological evidence from the crime scene can be analyzed and compared to offer profiles in DNA databases to help identify the perpetrator. Crime scene evidence can also be linked to other crime scenes through the use of DNA databases. This is basically an example of if someone commits a crime and the police are doing an investigation of the crime scene, they can get a sample of the person's blood, hair, or whatever is left in that particular area where the crime was committed. They can get that DNA to match it to the person who actually committed the crime. So that's how DNA is used. One of the many ways DNA is used. Another way DNA is used is by DNA fingerprinting. DNA fingerprinting is a test to identify and evaluate the genetic information called DNA in a person's cell. How fingerprinting is used. DNA fingerprinting is done to find out who a person's parents or siblings are. This test can also be used to identify the parents of babies who are switched at birth, solve crimes, which is forensic science, blood, semen, skin, and other tissues left at the scene of a crime can be analyzed to help prove whether the suspect who or was not present at the crime scene. This also used to identify a body. This is useful if the body is badly decomposed or only if body parts are available, such as following a natural disaster or a battle. Another example of fingerprinting actually is, we had to do this overseas. We had a body that was badly burned in a plane crash. They didn't know who the soldier was. No identification was on the soldier, as well as the dogs had no ID at all. So they used the soldier's fingerprint to actually identify him to see who he was. So that's one example. Another example that I know of for sure is my uncle works at a funeral home. So if he's not able to identify the body and this is just badly decomposed, he can use fingerprinting in that way as well to identify who the person is. Alright, the history of DNA. While the discovery of DNA has been a significant one in the 20th century, it will continue to revolutionize medicine, agriculture, forensics, paternity, and many other fields in society today. DNA research encompasses an evolving area of progress, and continued funding and interest in its relevance will likely fuel new discoveries in the future. These are my references where I got my information from, which is www.justice.gov. It gave a lot of information about DNA that I needed for this presentation. My other, looks like I copied it twice, but I do have another reference which is also listed in my in my module that I actually submitted online. So if no one has any questions, this is my conclusion. Any questions, anybody? Any questions about DNA?
How long does it take your DNA testing to come back once it's been done on it?
It usually takes about between, well, it actually depends, but it usually takes between 72 hours to 14 days. So between 3 to 14 days for the information to come back.
And then after it's after that has been compiled, do they just go on immediately and go forward with whatever whatever it may be, such as needing it for a criminal case? How far does that set that family back, or those people back, or their inmate back on? If they're in jail, on the time span.
As far
as when they get it back, their time span of their case moving forward.
Okay.
Do you know about how long does it take for them to move it on?
Immediately, once
system?
they find out, once they get that information back of who committed the crime, they're on it immediately. As far as letting the family know, they'll let them know so they can go ahead and solve the crime to end the case. They don't want to keep prolonging the case. I know the longest case that I've seen on here for fingerprinting that I read was like 3 years, because they didn't have like the correct information that they needed. But that's the longest case that I saw as far as like DNA testing. It took them that long because they had to, well, actually to find the person who did it took them 3 years to find out that person, because that person had to move. And actually, when they went and did the crime, they had gloves on, and then it was like some kind of wax that they would put on their hands, so the fingerprint wouldn't be the correct fingerprint. And so that's the long that I read on finding a person.
So how do they find them when they've done these things, as far as wax on their hand, gloves on their hand? How long does it take to identify anything through DNA by fingerprint?
The guy
that can go on.
The guy ended up leaving blood at the scene.
Oh, he went. Oh, so if he had not left blood, he'd have been scot free.
Right.
Well, then what's really? I mean, the purpose may be good, but people are so smart because they watch TV, they watch all these shows. So, I mean, that's not really good, is it? The fingerprinting.
It's not in a sense, but that's one of the many ways they can do DNA testing through fingerprinting.
So you just only went through.
I just gave you some examples. I didn't give a lot of examples because we can go on and on and on with DNA testing.
Oh,
I just kind of like pulled some stuff that just not in gold, but
so you don't know. You don't know really which one is better. Is what you're saying as to the ones that you've seen and pulled out for your presentation today. You do not know which one is better.
Fingerprinting is better, but all of them will actually give you the person who actually committed the crime, like soon, like within the time frame that they need, between that 72 hours and that week. They will actually give, it happens within that time frame. So all of it is good, actually. It's just,
but it just takes so long. But I know the blood is how long?
It's the same thing, 24 to a week. They give it 72 hours to a week for any DNA.
Any of it. Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you. Answer my question. You have a question.
Was this used in the century like in
It was. DNA testing has been around for years, centuries actually.
So like if say somebody crashed, how would you know if like the person, like how would you see if it crashed?
How would you know about the crash?
Through DNA.
Through DNA testing. Oh, to fix about what I told you about the plane crash? Through DNA testing. Like if I found some information on him as far as like a dog tag, some kind of identification, it'd be easy to do that, and I wouldn't have to do the DNA. But due to the fact the body was burned completely, you have no other choice but to do fingerprinting or whatever it is, hair, take the hair.
But if it was burned completely, then he shouldn't have any.
He's not going to have it, so you'll have at least.
But if he's burned,
you'll have his teeth. You can do DNA testing that way. You can take hair follicles. You can take grafting of the skin. If he's completely burned, yes, it's still stuff on the body that you can take. You can take bone marrow.
Okay.
So it's plenty of ways, and DNA testing. Those are just some that I pull.
Okay. Okay.
How do you fingerprint when a person is dead?
If the finger is completely burned, you can't fingerprint. So you just have to take something from, the body, something else from the body.
Yeah. Do you have a question recorder?
Okay, my recorder does not
She didn't have
any
a question.
questions.
Okay.
So this will conclude my presentation on DNA. Thank you.